Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Super Tees video. And in this one, I have an amazing new build for the Balance Druid that you definitely need to check out. I think there's been a lot of debate right now as to what specs are going to be the best. There's been so many changes and class balance tuning adjustments that have been made. And again, if you want to stay up to date with those, make sure you hit the subscribe button because I do bring those changes in real time. But because there's been just this huge upheaval of changes, there's new opportunities for interesting builds. And in this one, I'm running the Necro Lord Balance Druid. I'm running Stellar Drift and Starburst. I'm focused on doing as much AoE damage as possible. And throughout my session here, which if you'd like to catch these sessions live, twitch.tv/SuperTees, I was able to out damage Affliction Warlocks. I was able to out damage Havoc Demon Hunters. These are specializations that are kind of the trailblazers for overall scoreboard damage. And it brought back the old school feel of Boomkin with Starfall, where you are just destroying the entire enemy team at the same time. And I actually really enjoyed it. I was running the Circle of Life and Death legendary, so my dots are ticking a little bit faster. I'm still not even at the point where I have my set bonuses or have my second legendary, which is going to just increase my damage output, allow me to get more astral generation, and really put this build to the test in the future. I mixed this build with a part of my other strategy that I used in my 2100 video in one day, which is the Spear of Bastion Solar Beam plus Resonator combo. So the entire team is being decimated by dots and Starfall, and you set up these Solar Beam stuns onto the healer and drop grenades on them and just kind of watch the fireworks of the enemy team trying to figure out how they're going to deal with this tremendous amount of pressure. And that's what you're going to see in this video as I go through what I am trying to do in the match. So at the start of the game here, I'm hanging out near the Priest. We want to be able to start on the Priest with that Solar Beam, Stormbolt, Spear of Bastion. And this is where we can lob our Resonators out. We want to use our Adaptive Swarm, get as much damage onto the enemy healer as possible. This is to put them on the back foot and try and take advantage of the fact that I'm in stealth so the enemies won't know where I'm going to be attacking from. In the opener, we managed to get the Power Word Barrier, one of the strongest cooldowns from the Priest, as well as the Rapture. But my goal is to just keep rot pressure going. So I'm going to Starfall, have dots on every single target. I see Spear of Bastion on my warrior, so this is where we need to be a bit worried about surviving. So I'm going to use Cyclone here to try and peel for him. We get interrupted on it, but that's fine because now my Mistweaver does not need to deal with the counterspell and can freely heal my warrior. But whenever the enemy is sending their big attack and cooldowns like Avatar and Combustion, you do want to try to use Cyclone to alleviate the pressure by landing it or just by soaking an interrupt for your ally. Here we have dots on the whole team. We have Starfall rolling. We're going to use Typhoon to interrupt the polymorph on our healer so they can reposition behind the pillar. Then we're going to Cyclone the mage to prevent the mage from going for continuous polymorphs. And you can see the damage start to sink in here with the enemy team hovering at about 80% while we are just waiting for our next Solar Beam Stormbolt combo on the enemy healer. We're going to lob our Adaptive Swarms out onto the warrior. We're going to use Incarnation and Starfall here to amp up our damage even further. Our Starburst landing a bomb onto the enemy healer, knocking them up into the air, preventing them from healing for a moment. And we are trying to pay attention to where these Starbursts are going on the ground. But at the same time, our healer is now in a polymorph. So we need to think about healing. We need to think about defense. So we're going to be using Regrowth, Adaptive Swarm move to our warrior, luckily, for some extra healing. We're going to use Mass Entangle to root the enemy attackers, pick up a Starburst on our way through while rooting enemy targets, drop another Starfall while we still have Incarnation up, triple stun, move towards the healer with our Starburst, try and get it to connect. Unfortunately, it connects onto the warrior. Sometimes it can be difficult to actually run the Starburst into the target that you want it to hit, but you can see the damage really starting to sink in at this point with all three enemies now hovering at 50% health. And we have our Solar Beam. So the next big attack on the Priest may just be the end of the game with the Priest having no trinket and not being able to use pain suppression while silenced. So I set up massive dots on the enemy healer for that moment. Unfortunately, we incapacitate the enemy healer right before we were going to do it. So my big dots are removed. But even still, we send the Spear of Bastion. We move into position. So Solar Beam here a little bit faster, but we still get it before they're able to get the pain suppression. They actually managed to get out of the spear there for a second. So maybe a bit mispositioned. But if they weren't able to get that pain suppression, their entire team would basically be dead at this point. And that is the point of the spear, as well as the Solar Beam, is to prevent a lot of defensive options from enemy healers. But we're just going to keep ramping up our Starfalls. Even though they're not dead, that's just more opportunity to run our damage up on the scoreboard. So what's the big deal? We keep our dots rolling. We're trying to rotate into Eclipse as much as possible to activate our Solstice, which is just going to call down even extra dot damage. And here we're running the Bonesmith conduits. So we got our crit buff buff up right now, which means our crit is increased by 18%. So all these dots are critting more often. Our starfalls, if we could have got dispelled out of this crowd control chain with that crit buff, we probably again would have killed their entire team. So there's a lot of moments in this game where they absolutely would have just been devastated at this point. And I am running that new trinket, which means CC is 20% longer, but then you're immune to CC for 15 seconds afterwards until you're CC'd again. Bit confusing of a trinket. I wanted to run it as an experiment. Here I've got a starburst, so I'm trying to run it into the warrior. Warrior ends up running away, so I might use it on the mage to try and interrupt a polymorph here, knock the mage up in the air to try and prevent them from casting. We want to use cyclones here. We want to stop the mage from casting with cooldowns, with combustion, use the starburst, try and prevent the mage from pushing forward. And we're about 2 minutes into this game. We've got the priest completely out of mana. We've had 2 moments in this game where we probably could have just ended it outright. So this build is looking really fun. I had a great time playing it. I would definitely recommend it. I think that it's the highest damage output overall build that you can be running as a balanced druid. If you're running with things like Necrolord Demon Hunter, it's still probably better to stay Kyrian to empower the Demon Hunter. But if you're playing with other classes or non-Necrolord DPS members, then this could be a great pickup to just try and get as much damage out as possible. Here we're going after the warrior, running our starburst bombs, but we have our resonators, we have our solar beam, so we're going to lob the adaptive swarm onto the healer, solar beam with the spear of bastion, and we're going to drop our resonator. And this is where it's KO. Your warrior's at 20%, you got 0 mana left, you're fully dotted in a silence, you are not getting out of, the grenades go off, and boom, double kill. Easy game, easy life. And the mage is just sitting over there like, guys, I got the poly. Oh, you guys are dead? Oh, that's kind of awkward now, isn't it? But I had a lot of fun with this build. I think with the changes that are coming into the game, that this build has potential to get even better, especially if they start targeting the hybrid healing that was really preventing this type of playstyle from even being an option, because in a lot of cases, hybrids would just heal themselves to full after you'd built up a minute of momentum in terms of damage. So if those end up getting nerfed a little bit more, then these build options for specs like the warlocks, and the balanced druids like this, and maybe even the frost mages and other specs will have a more opportunity to shine with this playstyle, because this is a playstyle that has not really been in the game in a long time. It's really just been about burst one-shots. So I had a great time playing this because this was one of my favorite playstyles of the game in the past that has been missing for years. So I do hope that we will get an opportunity to run it, and I do plan on running it more on my stream. I would love to play with an Affliction Warlock next to see what we can do, because yeah, this is a scoreboard topper. Like, if you want to top the scoreboard, this is going to be the build that you want to run. I'll be having a guide that goes into detail, conduits and talents and stuff like that in the future. So again, hit the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with patch changes and guides. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I do greatly appreciate it. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. Is this something that you're sold on, that you're going to give a go and a try with patch 9.2? And how are you currently liking the patch? Do you like the direction, the changes coming into the game? Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will catch you in the next one.